Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker's prenup was supposed to protect their marriage. Instead, it became the source of some of their biggest fights, aired out on reality television for millions to watch. And now that they're divorcing, Todd is claiming he signed the whole thing under pressure without proper legal help. Here's the thing. Their prenup disaster could have been avoided. Today, I'm breaking down the 6 crucial moves you need to make before signing a prenup, so you don't end up in a mess. What actually happened with their prenup? Let's start with the timeline, because timing is everything here. Kandi and Todd finalized their prenup right before the wedding. Not weeks before, not even days before. We're talking moments before they were supposed to walk down the aisle. Now, they had been negotiating earlier, but the final agreement that Todd was expected to sign showed up so late that there was barely any time to actually think about what he was agreeing to. Todd has been vocal about this. He says he signed under pressure without enough time to review everything, and without adequate legal representation at the moment he put his name on that document. That's a huge problem, and it's exactly why prenups get challenged in court. But the timing wasn't the only issue. The terms themselves were incredibly one-sided. Kandi protected all of her pre-marriage assets, her home, her businesses, her music royalties, everything. That makes sense given her success and her net worth. But here's where it gets tricky. The prenup also stated that if they separated, Todd would have to vacate their home within 30 days. Not 60 days. Not even 45 days. 30 days to pack up and leave the home they shared as a married couple. At the time, when emotions are high and you're excited about getting married, these clauses might seem reasonable. Kandi built her empire before Todd came into the picture, so why shouldn't she protect it? But here's what nobody talks about. Enough marriages evolve. People change. Circumstances shift. What seems fair on your wedding day might feel completely different 5 or 10 years down the line. So where did the resentment start? According to reports, what started as a protective agreement eventually became a source of bitterness between them. As their life together changed and their marriage dynamics shifted, the prenup stayed the same. It was inflexible. The terms that Todd agreed to her allegedly was pressured into agreeing to started to feel unfair to him. Once they had built a life together, had children, and their relationship matured, this is the part people don't realize about prenups. They're not just pieces of paper you sign and forget about. They're living documents that can affect every financial decision you make during your marriage. And if one person feels like they got the short end of the stick, that resentment builds over time. Now that they're going through a divorce, Todd is challenging whether the prenup should even be enforced. He's claiming duress and lack of proper legal counsel. If the court sides with him, the entire agreement that Kandi thought was set in stone could be thrown out. And that's the irony. The prenup that was supposed to provide certainty might end up providing none at all. The 6 things they should have done differently? So what could Kandi and Todd have done to avoid this situation? Let's break it down into 6 practical steps that anyone considering a prenup should follow. First, sign well before the wedding date. I'm not talking about a week before. I'm talking weeks or even months ahead of time. You need buffer time for negotiation, for reflection, for legal review. When you're scrambling to finalize a prenup the day before your wedding, nobody is thinking clearly. You're worried about seating charts and whether the flowers arrived on time, not whether you fully understand a legal document that could govern the rest of your financial life. Give yourself space to actually process what you're signing. Second, make sure each party has independent legal counsel. This sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how many couples try to cut corners here. Do not use the same lawyer. Do not let one person's attorney handle everything. Conflicts of interest are real, and they can invalidate the entire agreement later. Both people need their own lawyer, who is looking out solely for their interests and making sure they understand their rights and obligations. Third, the prenup needs to be fair and balanced, not overly skewed toward one person. Yes, if one person is bringing significantly more assets into the marriage, they have a right to protect those. But the agreement should still have some symmetry. More equitable terms reduce the resentment that builds up later when things inevitably change when one person's income shifts. When you have children together, when your lifestyle evolves. A prenup that feels like a fair deal to both people on day one is more likely to hold up over time, both legally and emotionally. Fourth, include review clauses for the future. A good prenup doesn't have to be permanent. You can build in periodic reviews or clauses that account for changing circumstances. What happens when you have kids? What if one person's business takes off, or one person gives up their career to raise children? What if someone gets disabled or seriously ill? These aren't pleasant things to think about when you're planning a wedding, but they're the exact situations that expose whether your prenup was actually well thought out. Fifth, have clear communication about your long-term vision. Prenups shouldn't just be about money and assets. Couples need to discuss their expectations. What roles will you each play in the marriage? How will you handle children? What would actually happen under different scenarios, not just divorce, but also death or disability? These conversations are uncomfortable, but they're necessary. If you can't talk openly about this stuff before you get married, that's a red flag all on its own. And sixth, avoid the take it or leave it pressure. A prenup should never feel like a forced ultimatum. If one person is presenting the document and saying, sign this or we're not getting married, that's not a partnership. That's coercion. Both parties need time to consider, to ask questions, to negotiate. They need to consent voluntarily, without feeling like they're trapped or cornered into agreeing to terms they don't fully understand or accept. Why this actually matters. Here's why all of this matters beyond just Kandi and Todd's situation. A prenup that's signed hastily is at serious risk of being challenged as unfair or invalid. When that happens, it completely undermines the original purpose, which was to provide protection and certainty. You end up in court fighting over whether the prenup should even count, which is exactly what you were trying to avoid in the first place. Overly one-sided prenups create resentment, especially as the relationship evolves over the years. What seemed like just business at the start, just protecting assets, just being practical, can become deeply personal later. It can make one person feel like they were never truly seen as an equal partner. The prenups that work best are the ones that are transparent, fair, and flexible enough to handle the uncertainties that come with marriage. Finances change, children arrive, career priorities shift, health issues emerge. A rigid agreement written at one moment in time can't possibly account for everything that might happen over decades of marriage. Ultimately, a prenup should protect both partners' interests, not just one person's wealth. It should preserve trust and respect, even if the marriage ends. Because here's the truth: if your prenup is so one-sided that your spouse feels taken advantage of, you haven't protected your relationship. You've just delayed the conflict. So if you're thinking about a prenup, or you know someone who is, what do you think is the most important thing to get right? Is it the timing, the legal representation, or making sure the terms are actually fair? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this video helped you understand prenups a little better, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future breakdowns like this one. Thanks for watching.